It was a night of March 17th, 2009, a mild Tuesday in Curitiba, the capital of Parana. The temperature of 188 was typical of the approaching autumn in the southern region of Brazil, in the Agua Verde neighborhood, one of the most traditional in the city. A birthday party was taking place in the party room of the Palmeiras building, an upper-middle-class residential condominium built in the 1990s. Renato Oliveira, 34, a real estate businessman, and his wife, Carolina Mendez, 32, a university professor of psychology, were guests at the party celebrating the 40th birthday of Pedro Andrade, a longtime friend of the couple. Renato and Carolina were known in their social circle for being extremely punctual and methodical. They arrived at the party at 7:30 p.m., exactly at the time indicated on the invitation. According to reports from the other 37 guests present, the couple appeared normal throughout the celebration. They chatted animatedly, participated in the games proposed by the host, and even helped serve the cake around 121. Carolina had even told some friends about her plans to start a doctorate in the second semester of that year. The last time Renato and Carolina were seen for sure was at 11:42 p.m., when they said goodbye to some close friends, saying they needed to leave as they had early commitments the next morning. Marcos Pereira, one of the guests and Renato's co-worker, stated in his testimony that he saw the couple walking towards the building's elevator. However, no one witnessed the exact moment they left the building. The next morning, Claudia Mendez, Carolina's sister, tried to contact her by phone to confirm details of a family lunch schedule for the weekend. With no response, after several attempts, he decided to stop by the couple's apartment in the Bait neighborhood, about 3 kilometers from the party location. Upon arriving, he found the apartment empty, with the bed intact, suggesting that Renato and Carolina had never returned home. The couple's car, a black 2008 Honda Civic, was not in the garage of the building where they lived. Worried, Claudia contacted Pedro, the host of the party, who confirmed that he saw the couple say goodbye around 11:40 p.m., but did not witness them leaving the building. It was at this moment that the first alarm sounded. Something unusual had happened. At 2:27 p.m. on March 18th, Claudia reported her disappearance at the Homicide and Personal Protection Department, DHBP in Curitiba. Police Chief Ricardo Almeida immediately took over the case, considering the disappearance of 2 people with no apparent history of psychological, financial, or family problems to be worrying. The first 48 hours were crucial. Police discovered, through security cameras at the condominium where the party took place, that the couple never left through the building's main gate. The images clearly showed all the guests leaving the venue, but there was no record of Renato and Carolina. Their car also didn't appear leaving the garage. That was when the investigation took on more serious contours. The building was searched superficially that same day, including the party room, common areas, and garage, but no sign of the couple or anything suspicious was found. The search extended to hospitals, highways, and even Lake Bargay, a large nearby park, with the help of the fire department, without results. Renato and Carolina's cell phones had been turned off since the early hours of the 18th, and the last location record pointed to the vicinity of the Palmeiras building. The couple's credit cards and bank accounts remained untouched since the day they disappeared, initially ruling out the possibility of a planned escape. If you want to follow more cases like this, which shake up society as a whole and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any investigations. With the couple's disappearance gaining prominence in local and later national media, pressure on authorities increased considerably. Renato and Carolina's family was well connected in Curitiba. Renato's father, Roberto Oliveira, was a retired judge, while Carolina's mother had been the municipal secretary of education years before. On the 3rd day after the disappearance, the police formed a task force dedicated exclusively to the case. All 37 people present at the party were interviewed in detail, and their accounts were consistent. The couple didn't seem nervous, hadn't argued with anyone, and seemed to have left the celebration naturally. A twist came when investigators discovered, after a thorough analysis of security cameras, that there was a 12-minute period between 11:48 p.m. and midnight when the building surveillance system had been disrupted. System failure, initially attributed to technical problems, raised suspicions of intentional sabotage. The person responsible for maintaining the system, Rogerio Santos, stated that such a failure had never occurred before and that the equipment had been serviced just 2 weeks earlier. On March 25th, a week after the disappearance, the first conspiracy theories emerged. A local newspaper reported that Renato was involved in real estate deals with people under investigation for money laundering. Police investigated this line, but found no concrete evidence to support such a theory. The couple's finances appeared solid and transparent. Another line of investigation explored a possible kidnapping. However, no ransom demand was made, and there were no signs of struggle or violence in the ballroom or anywhere else in the building. Family members said they had not received any suspicious contact or threats. In April 2009, almost a month after the disappearance, investigators turned their attention to the building's basement, an area that included a garage, storage rooms, and a communal laundry room, rarely used by residents who preferred washing machines in their own units. During this more in-depth search, sniffer dogs were used, but they did not signal anything conclusive. An interesting statement emerged in May, when Paulo Ribeiro, the building's night caretaker, claimed to have heard a strange noise coming from the laundry area around midnight on the day of the disappearance. He described it as a dull thud, as if something heavy had fallen. Paulo reported having checked the place superficially, but as it was dark and he saw nothing immediately suspicious, he attributed the noise to the building's machinery and did not give the fact any greater importance. This statement led to a new search of the laundry room, this time more thorough, but again nothing was found. Experts examined the floor, walls, and equipment without detecting any traces of blood or signs of a struggle. The laundry area had a small staircase leading to a cleaning supplies storage area, but this space was also checked without results. As the months passed, the case cooled. The lack of concrete clues and the complete disappearance of the couple and their vehicle led police to consider several hypotheses: voluntary flight to another country, a perfect crime committed by professionals, or even an accident in some remote area yet to be explored. In December 2009, the family hired a private detective, Marcelo Ramos, a former police officer with 20 years of experience. Ramos dedicated himself to retracing every step of the official investigation, re-interviewing witnesses, and seeking angles not explored by the police. One of the branch discoveries was particularly intriguing. When interviewing a food delivery man who worked in the region, he said he had seen a black Honda Civic, similar to the couple's, being driven by a lone man in the early hours of the morning of their disappearance, around 1:30 a.m. on BR-27, the highway that connects Curitiba to Paranagua on the coast of Parana. This information had never been verified by the police. This lead led to searches along the coast of Parana during the first half of 2010, including checks in marinas, ports, and even at the bottom of Paranagua Bay, with the help of the Navy and specialized divers. No sign of the vehicle or the couple was found. In September 2010, 6 months after the disappearance, the case was formally classified as open, without significant progress, remaining in the hands of the DHBP, but without the exclusive attention of the initial task force. The families, however, never gave up. Every month they held small demonstrations in front of the civil police headquarters, distributed pamphlets with photos of the couple, and maintained a web page with information about the case, hoping that some clue might emerge. Years passed and the Renato and Carolina case became one of the most mysterious disappearances in Parana police history. Between 2011 and 2015, there were several sightings of the couple in different parts of Brazil and even abroad. Argentina, Paraguay, and Portugal were some of the places mentioned. All these leads were investigated and discarded. In 2016, when the case completed 7 years, a significant turnaround occurred. Maria Eduarda, daughter of Pedro Andrade, the party host, then 17 years old, decided to do a school project on unsolved cases and chose the disappearance of Renato and Carolina as a topic. During her research, she interviewed her own father and other party guests. It was during a conversation with Thago Bueno, a close friend of Pedro, that information never before reported emerged. Thago mentioned seeing Renato having a heated conversation with an unidentified man in the garage area around 23 Brazilian reals, shortly before the couple was last seen. According to Thago, it hadn't become an argument, but the conversation seemed tense and reserved. When asked why he never reported it to the police, Thago claimed he didn't think it was relevant at the time and later forgot the detail due to the shock of the disappearance. This information was immediately taken to the police chief, who was still responsible for the case. Based on this new information, the police actively reopened the investigation. Security camera footage was reanalyzed using more advanced technology, allowing the identification of a man who was walking around the garage at the time Tiago mentioned. After investigation, it was discovered that it was Fernando Moraes, a former partner of Renato, who was not on the official guest list for the party. Fernando was located living in Balneario Camboriú, Santa Catarina, and brought in for questioning in October 2016. During his testimony, he confirmed having spoken to Renato in the garage, but denied any involvement in the disappearance. According to him, the conversation was about an old business disagreement, and they reconciled at that moment. Fernando's alibi for the hours following his disappearance seemed solid. He had been seen at a hotel in downtown Curitiba, where he was staying around midnight, as recorded by the establishment security cameras. In 2018, new three-dimensional scanning technology was used to map the entire Palmeiras building, searching for possible hiding places or areas that may have gone unnoticed in previous searches. The result was negative, reinforcing the mystery. In the same year, the federal police entered the case after evidence emerged that the disappearance could be linked to an international criminal organization operating in Parana. This line of research also did not produce concrete results. In January 2020, the case gained space on a popular Brazilian podcast about unsolved crimes. The repercussion of the episode led hundreds of people to send tips and theories. Among them, one stood out. A former maintenance employee at the Palmeiras building, who had worked there between 2008 and 2010, got in touch saying that there was an area under the laundry room stairs, which was not included in the building's official plans. According to this former employee, during the construction of the building in the early 1990s, an architectural flaw resulted in an empty space of approximately 203 m under the laundry room stairs. This space had been closed off with a false wall and was never included in the final building plans. The man said few people knew about the existence of this place, which was occasionally used to store ancient tools. Leave it in the comments. Never give up on the truth if you believe that all missing people deserve to be found. On March 23, 2022, exactly 13 years and 16 days after the disappearance, the civil police of Parana, armed with a court order, carried out an operation in the Palmeiras building. Equipped with cutting-edge technology, including thermal cameras and structural scanning equipment, investigators focused on the laundry area. The staircase leading to the cleaning supplies room was thoroughly examined. Using GPR ground-penetrating radar, technicians identified an anomaly in the structure beneath the staircase. After consulting with engineers, the team decided to remove part of the sidewall cladding. What they found shocked everyone present. Behind a thin masonry wall, there was indeed an undocumented space, exactly as described by the former maintenance worker. And within this space were the remains of two people, later identified by DNA tests as Renato Oliveira and Carolina Mendez. The bodies were in an advanced state of decomposition, with mainly bone structures remaining. Both were dressed in the same clothes described by the party guests. There were no obvious signs of violence on the remains, such as fractures or puncture wounds to the bones, which complicated determining the cause of death. 2 wedding rings were found next to bodies, a wallet containing Renato's documents, a small purse belonging to Carolina, 2 cell phones completely deteriorated by humidity and time, and a set of keys that included the key to the Honda Civic, a vehicle never found. The discovery raised an obvious question. How had the couple ended up in that hidden space? The answer began to take shape as investigators examined the structure of the staircase and the hidden space. Analysis revealed that a portion of the laundry room floor near the stairs had a structural flaw that could give way under excessive weight. Apparently, a section of approximately 60-80 centimeters worked as a kind of unintentional trapdoor. Experts concluded that if 2 people were standing in this exact spot, the floor could rupture, causing a fall into the hidden space below. The hypothesis gained strength when resistance tests were carried out on similar sections of the floor, confirming its fragility. Furthermore, the position in which the bodies were found, one partially on top of the other, was consistent with a fall. But why did anyone hear the calls for help? The answer lay in the characteristics of the space. The thick walls, the building's basement location, and the fact that the laundry room was rarely visited, especially at night, would have created a perfect acoustic prison. Screams would hardly be heard outside that area. Surprisingly, the dull thud mentioned by caretaker Paulo Ribeiro in his 2009 testimony now made sense. It was probably the sound of the couple falling through the broken floor. Toxicological tests performed on hair samples and residues found on the remains did not detect any substances that could have caused immediate unconsciousness. The expert's most likely conclusion was that after the fall, the couple suffered incapacitating or disorienting injuries, possibly concussions, and eventually succumbed to dehydration and lack of oxygen in the confined space. As for the disappearance of the Honda Civic, the investigation took an unexpected turn. In April 2022, after news of the discovery of the bodies, a man identified as Andre Martins approached the police with a partial confession. He had stolen the vehicle from the parking lot of the Palmeiras building in the early hours of the morning of the disappearance, taking advantage of the moment when the garage door opened to allow another resident to leave. Andre claimed to have no knowledge of the couple's disappearance and believed he was just stealing an empty car. According to his testimony, the vehicle was dismantled in an illegal scrapyard on the outskirts of Curitiba and its parts sold on the black market. This belated confession explained why the car was never found and why the camera footage did not show the couple leaving with the vehicle. In June 2022, the police investigation was finally concluded. The official cause of death was recorded as accidental, resulting from a fall followed by incapacitation in a confined space, with contributing factors of dehydration and asphyxiation. The case had a profound impact on Brazilian legislation on building safety. In December 2022, the Renato and Carolina law was approved in the state of Parana, which requires regular structural inspections in buildings over 15 years old, with special attention to spaces not documented in original plans. For the families, the closure brought a mixture of relief and renewed grief. After 13 years of anguish and uncertainty, they were finally able to hold a dignified funeral for Renato and Carolina. The ceremony held at Curitiba's municipal cemetery brought together hundreds of people, including investigators who dedicated years of their lives to the case. Roberto Oliveira, Renato's father and a former judge, created a foundation named after his son and daughter-in-law, dedicated to helping in the search for missing persons in Brazil, especially in long-term cases. The institution works in partnership with law enforcement agencies, offering technological resources and psychological support to families. The years following the discovery of Renato and Carolina's bodies brought profound changes to the way disappearance cases are handled in Brazil, especially in Parana. The impact of the case extended far beyond state borders, influencing investigative protocols across the country. In September 2022, the Parana Civil Police instituted the Oliveira Mendes Protocol, a set of specific guidelines for investigating disappearances, which includes, among other measures, the mandatory complete scanning of buildings where people were last seen, the use of advanced technologies from the first days of the investigation, and the maintenance of dedicated teams. Even after the first few months without results, the Palmeiras building underwent a complete structural renovation in 2023. During the process, 3 other undocumented spaces were discovered in different areas of the building, thankfully empty. The condominium administration, together with the residents, decided to transform the old laundry room into a memorial dedicated to the couple, with a plaque that commemorates the tragedy and serves as a warning about the importance of safety in buildings. The case also led to a review of construction regulations in Brazil. The Council of Architecture and Urbanism, SCAU, and the Federal Council of Engineering and Agronomy, CONFA, jointly issued new guidelines for documenting architectural projects, requiring full transparency on all spaces, including those resulting from structural changes during construction. In the legal sphere, the lawsuit against the builder of the Palmeiras building, the construction company Horizonte, resulted in millions of dollars in compensation for the families of Renato and Carolina. Although the construction company claimed that the building complied with the regulations in force at the time of its construction in the early 1990s, The court found that there had been negligence in documenting the spaces and in verifying the structural strength of the laundry room floor. As for Andre Martins, the man who confessed to stealing the couple's car, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for qualified theft, with mitigating factors due to his late cooperation with the justice system. His confession, while crucial to closing the case, has sparked controversy, with many questioning whether the sentence imposed was proportionate to the suffering caused to the families by the prolonged uncertainty. The Renato and Carolina case became the subject of study in police academies and forensic science faculties throughout Brazil. The combination of factors that led to the disappearance, an undocumented structural failure, a fall into a hidden space, and a coincidental theft of the vehicle, is considered a rare example of how seemingly unrelated circumstances can create a near-perfect mystery. In 2024, a documentary series produced by an international streaming service narrated the entire story of the disappearance, investigation, and discovery, entitled 13 Years of Silence. The production included testimonies from family members, investigators, forensic experts, and even Paulo Ribeiro, the caretaker who heard the muffled BAC on the night of the disappearance. The Renato and Carolina Foundation, founded by Renato's father, expanded its operations to 5 Brazilian states by 2025. With a team of former police officers, forensic experts, volunteers, and trauma psychologists, the organization has already helped solve more than 30 long-term missing persons cases, using cutting-edge technology funded by private donations. One of the foundation's most important initiatives was the creation of a unified national database for missing persons, sharing information across different states and regions of the country. This system, implemented in partnership with the Ministry of Justice, has already facilitated the identification of dozens of people who live without identity in vulnerable situations, many of them suffering from mental conditions that prevented them from providing information about their past. Claudia Mendez, Carolina's sister, became a recognized activist for the rights of the families of the disappeared. His work was crucial to the approval, in 2024, of a federal law that guarantees free psychological and legal assistance to family members of people missing for more than 30 days. The disappearance of a loved one is a form of suspended grief, without resolution. The least the state can do is ensure that families do not face this painful journey alone, Claudia declared. During the vote on the project in the federal Senate, for the residents of Curitiba, the case remains alive in the collective memory. Barigüe Park, where the first searches for the couple were carried out, now houses a sculpture entitled Reencontro, donated by the Renato and Carolina Foundation. The work, which depicts 2 human silhouettes merging into a single form, symbolizes not only the couple's tragedy, but also the hope that other missing people will be found. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that mark families forever. Leave a comment saying, "I watched this far so I could get to know you and who truly cares about the search for the truth." 13 years is a long time to live in uncertainty. For the families of Renato Oliveira and Carolina Mendez, it was 4,748 days of unanswered questions, of hopes alternating with despair, of birthdays and anniversaries marked by absence. The discovery of their bodies in 2022, though devastating, brought the necessary closure, so the grieving process could finally begin. The case makes us reflect on the fragility of life and how seemingly improbable circumstances can align to create tragedies. A structural failure in a building, a floor that collapsed under the weight of 2 people, a hidden space in the official plans, and the coincidental theft of a vehicle, each element, taken individually, could have resulted in less serious consequences. Together, they created one of the most intriguing mysteries in Brazilian police history. There is also an important reflection on investigative methods. For years, the police focused their efforts on more cinematic hypotheses: kidnapping, crime of passion, escape, voluntary, connections to organized crime. The truth, when finally revealed, proved more prosaic and therefore more difficult to detect. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one, even when it seems unlikely at first glance. Technological advances also played a crucial role in solving the case. The ground-penetrating radar that identified the hidden space under the staircase was unavailable or in use for investigations of this type when the disappearance occurred in 2009. How many other mysteries of the past could be solved with the tools we have today? For the community of the Palmeiras building, The case left a complex legacy. On the one hand, the condominium was marked by the tragedy, with its name forever associated with the case. On the other, the complete renovation carried out after the discovery of the bodies transformed it into one of the safest buildings in the city, with every square inch documented and verified. The memorial in the former laundry room serves as a constant reminder of the importance of transparency and security in architectural projects. More broadly, the Renato and Carolina case permanently altered the way Brazilian society views disappearances. Previously, they were often treated as once considered a low priority unless there was clear evidence of foul play. Disappearances now receive immediate attention and dedicated resources from the outset. The understanding that time is crucial in these situations finally seems to have taken hold in the public security system. The legislative changes inspired by the case, the Renato and Carolina law in Parana, and the federal law of assistance to families of the missing, represent significant advances in protecting both the physical safety of individuals and the emotional well-being of those facing the anguish of not knowing the whereabouts of a loved one. For Brazilian forensic science, the case established new paradigms. The combination of traditional investigation techniques with advanced technologies, such as three-dimensional scanning,